Loading overdramatic intro. Loading complete. Enjoy the video.
The Sony A7C has the potential to be a really good vlogging camera or just a good camera for small filmmakers, but to prove that, let's jump into this video. First of all, the full frame sensor in a small camera. This makes it easier to travel, vlog, or just have a light setup when filming. And you don't even have to sacrifice the image quality because it's still a full frame camera. Next up, the tilt articulating flip screen. Now you can see yourself when you're vlogging, or you can view at multiple angles, high and low when you're shooting video. Next up, low light. As we all know, Sony has a low light drilled in pretty well at this point, and this camera is no different. But hey, do not think that their extended ISO is just gonna magically fix everything. You still need to be exposing, and you still need to be like lighting your scenes. They need to make sense. Like, don't just shoot in pitch black. It's probably not gonna look the best. Okay, and the Sony A7C offers a 24 megapixel sensor. That's not 12, and that's not 32, but 24. So right in the middle ground between kind of the averages of what these entry-level cameras usually come at. So a pretty quick explanation as to why this isn't such a bad thing, at least for video. The less megapixels you have, honestly, the better for low light usually. Some professional cameras have as low as 7 megapixels, like the professional cinema cameras. And no, that doesn't mean your iPhone 5 is some type of cinema low light beast, but if the camera's designed right and it's supposed to work with that 7 megapixel sensor, then it's gonna do well in low light with that. It's also a misconception for photography though. Usually megapixels only matter for photography whenever you're planning to just blow up that image huge and just have like a huge big print of it. Then yeah, you do want a high megapixel camera. Otherwise your image is gonna look really bad if you plan on printing it really big. But most people are just posting it on Insta, so you probably don't even need anything over 24. Okay, that wasn't a very quick explanation, but back on track. Sony A7C kind of just stays in the middle ground of both of those, so it's gonna respond decent to both situations. All right, and finally, the next thing I got for you is some video specs. 4K 30, 1080p 120 with audio recording and autofocus, which those are pretty standard specs for cameras nowadays, but Sony did a really good job with this, and here's my point as to why. So basically, no matter how good your resolution is, or you know, things like that, if your colors suck, your video is probably gonna suck, man. Like, that's just the truth. But that should not be the case with the Sony A7C, because the color science straight out of the camera is actually really good. Like, I'm fine with vlogging with it. I'm comfortable. I would shoot a cinematic with it. Actually, I did. The distraction video was shot with that color profile. Only thing I did to it was add in a little bit of warm tone, a little bit of contrast, and some fade. You know, I just did some basic edits. And for like a vlog, all you might want to do is take out some magenta, but that's pretty easy. But hey, I mean, don't get me wrong. I still like to color grade. Like, if I'm gonna do a big cinematic where I want full control, I'm not gonna, you know, just not color grade because I have certain moods that I'm trying to portray. But there's no issue with that either, because the A7C comes with some really good picture profiles, you know, S-Log2, S-Log3, Cine 4, some decent picture profiles that have really good dynamic range. In fact, it has like 13 stops, which is the same as the A7S III, and I'm impressed by that. Like, that's really good. Okay, so I've made some good points that are pretty hard to argue with, but now it's time to jump into some cons, because, you know, every camera has a catch, but you know, with this first con, there's a catch to the catch. Hold on, does that even make any sense? Here's the catch though. This stabilization is no Canon Crusher and is not as good as the A7S III either. But I don't think this footage is unwatchable. I'm not on the verge of any motion sickness. I just not impressed necessarily, but I'm not like to the point where I'm getting off this video. See ya. But the catch to the catch is pretty nice, and that catch is a magical software called Catalyst Browse, and that basically makes a little, you know, basically a little gimbal out of your camera. It's pretty good, and I haven't got to use it, but I've seen a lot of footage with it, and it seems like they're actually doing really good. The reason that it can do good is because your camera records gyro data. So basically what that means is it knows where it is in 3D space, so it can figure out in the software how to compensate for those stabilization errors. Now, the reason I haven't really used it is, for one, I tried to use it one time and there was like some type of crash issue, so I haven't worried about it since. And for two, I just like the way a gimbal works better. I like the shots I can get, the movement. It's just more my style, so I haven't even bothered with it. The next con could be the menu system, but honestly, dude, just stop being intimidated by a camera and start using the menu system. If you really want a Sony, and you really want that control, then that's just something you're gonna have to probably deal with unless you get the A7S III. Your menu systems are gonna be a little confusing at first, but if I can do it, you can do it. I got pretty fast at it. So just put some effort into it. If you want simplicity, go Canon. If you want control, go Sony. But if you're gonna go Sony, make sure you're actually gonna use those extra features that a Sony camera is gonna give you. Now, I honestly couldn't think of any other bad sides to this camera, and that is definitely not to say that there is not any more. I just can't think of any, but if you can, drop a comment and let me know. I'd appreciate it. Kind of want to know some more flaws about it if you guys can think of anything. Now, the most important question in this video. What did you think when you watched this review? Did the cons outweigh the pros? Because if so, I wouldn't recommend buying the A7C for you. It would not be a good camera for you. If it was the other way around, then you probably just struck camera gold at a decent price. $1,700. And yeah, that's a lot. But when you consider what this camera can do, its full frame, I just think that it could be justified. Especially when you compare it to the A7S III, which is like $3,400. And yes, there is some better things about it, like 10-bit 422, but for my size of a filmmaker slash creator slash whatever you want to say, I just didn't need all that yet. Basically, all I'm trying to say is I can't tell you the perfect camera, but you can tell yourself if that camera sounds good to you.